this part of Israel is seeing intensification of conflict. Even as we speak, you can hear not just massive military movement that's happening behind me, but also the boom of 155 howitzers that are going off from this side and rockets that continue to pound this place, rockets that come from Hamas controlled Gaza Strip. Even on day 7 of the conflict between Israel and Hamas, the terrorist organization retains the capability to strike and strike hard between Sderot, where we are, and Ashkelon, which is just behind me. You have multiple rocket attacks from Hamas held territory, which is actually disrupting Israel's movement to an extent to the forward areas. Of course, only occasionally. The Iron Dome system effectively has taken down most of those rockets, but people have been asked to move to safer areas. But earlier today, I was at the front lines of this conflict where there was a massive movement of Israel's armored columns from the Merkava tanks to the infantry combat vehicles to troop carriers. We bring you this ground report.
The India Today team right now is at the front lines of this conflict. These are the powerful Merkava tanks of the Israeli army, and these tanks have now been mobilized. We are right at the front lines. Watch around me as the howitzers, the tanks and the infantry combat vehicles of the Israeli army are all slowly getting mobilized, and all of it is happening right here with the flag of the Israeli army prepared. The mobilization has already taken place and the forces are now moving forward. Their deployment, their locations constantly being changed, and an element of surprise is taking on. They are moving forward very, very quickly, very capable tanks and very anytime now, the moment was instructions are given, Israeli forces will move in. India today is right at the front lines of this battle in West Asia, getting you the latest reports. We were the first to show you how air attacks were intensified, how artillery was pounding Hamas bases, how armor was moving forward, and now how these infantry combat vehicles, and behind them the special forces locked and loaded, ready to go and decimate the Hamas terror. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the army chief, they've both been very clear. This country is on the same page with one objective. That one objective is to completely decimate the Hamas and ensure that Gaza Strip can never be used to launch terror attacks on this part of Israel. The southernmost part of Israel remains most vulnerable. But despite all this movement, despite the air attacks and the artillery pounding, ground troops will have to go in, because even now Hamas retains the capacity to strike. Rocket attacks have been happening inside Israel. Even yesterday till very late at night, we were near Sridot and rocket attacks were happening, though the Iron Dome was able to interdict and destroy most of the incoming rockets in the sky itself. But a couple of rockets did fall, one close to a hospital, one on the road harmlessly, but at the same time the threat of rocket attacks still remains. We've been speaking for the past half an hour, and even before we got here, the armor movement was happening. Mechanized infantry columns have been moving, the special forces have been moving, the ground forces have been moving, and all in full public flow. It just shows how massive is Israel's response going to be. One of the officers we spoke to told us that this is the fastest ever mobilization in the history of Israel, with 300,000 soldiers, with 3 lakh soldiers being mobilized in a couple of days, battle ready, locked and loaded and ready to go. That's exactly what Israel intends to do. This is day 7 of the deadly terror attack launched by Hamas, in which 1,200 people were massacred, more than 1,200, and more than 3,000 injured. Israel is still counting its losses, but resolute in its will and decision to decimate Hamas and ensure that the Gaza Strip no longer poses a threat. Hamas no longer poses a threat to people living in this part of Israel. Gaurav Sawant in southern Israel for India Today.